This is the difference a little animation can make. This is UI Expander, and in this tutorial, I'll show you how to install it, line it up with your footage, and start animating your own UIs in minutes. So, let's get started. After getting UI Expander, you should be sent straight to this page. However, in the case that you are not, you will also get an email with a link that will send you here, or you can always check your Gumroad library as well. This is your content page, where all of the contents of your package will be stored. For this tutorial, I am only going to be focusing on the main download up here, but feel free to explore the other perks underneath on your own. To start, go ahead and click on the drop-down menu right here. Choose your resolution and hit download. It should be downloaded to your device just like that. Now you can head straight to Premiere Pro and open up a project. Head on up to the Window tab and find the Graphics Templates window. Then, go ahead and click on it. If you don't have the Graphics Templates option, look for an Essential Graphics window and click on that. After that, look for this icon here. When you hover over it, it should say Install Motion Graphics Template. Go ahead and click on it. This should bring you to File Explorer. So once you're here, locate your downloads and find the file. Mine is already here, so I'm going to go ahead and double click on it, and now it should be installed. It's that simple. Once installed, this will be saved in all of your projects, so there's no need to reinstall this every time you want to use it. And also, this no longer relies on the original file we downloaded earlier, so feel free to delete it and free up some storage. Now, I'm going to show you how to actually use it. For this tutorial, I have thrown together a demo project from some old footage, and it feels like this moment needs a little something to spice it up. There's no way! Guys, we got it! To start, what I like to do is line up my playhead with the first frame where the UI comes in. As you can see here, this UI has one frame where it is a different size, and sometimes this happens when UIs load in, but it isn't too common. When this happens, I like to move one frame ahead where it is fully loaded, but it doesn't really make a big difference as it's usually unnoticeable. After your playhead is on the first frame, go ahead and drag UI Expander into the timeline on top of your footage. To make it easier to align, I like having Snap enabled so it aligns perfectly to the playhead. As well as that, if you plan on customizing your animation later, go ahead and hit I on your keyboard to make this your endpoint. Now, go ahead and double click on your main footage that is underneath UI Expander. After doing that, it should pop up in a window like this here. Go ahead and select the blue numbers and hit Ctrl-C to copy it for later. After that, locate the footage in your project. For me, it tends to be easiest to right-click in this footage window and click Reveal in Project. Now make sure that UI Expander is selected in your timeline. If you aren't seeing editable properties like this when you click on it, then go ahead and double click on it to reveal its window. Now you should be able to drag and drop the footage that we found earlier into the footage property of your MOGRT. After that, go ahead and hit the arrow here to open the drop-down menu for your footage. Then click on the endpoint time and paste the number you copied earlier. Now it should be perfectly lined up with your footage. Well, at least that's what one would think, and I know this may come as a shock to everyone, but Premiere has a bug. If yours is lined up correctly, then consider yourself lucky and move to the next timestamp. But for the rest of us, I'm going to show you how to fix it. Basically, what is happening is even though my sequence is 60 frames per second, and my footage is 60 frames per second, and the MOGRT is 60 frames per second, it treats it as though it is 30 frames per second. I made a bug post a little while back, but realistically, Adobe does not care about me and my niche bugs. So if you have a few minutes, feel free to go upvote my post, so maybe, just maybe, they will actually care. I'll link it in the pinned comment. Anyway, there is some good news. It isn't too hard to fix. The most simple way to fix it is after adding your footage, just restart Premiere and it's fixed. The good news is once you do this once in your project, all you have to do to apply it to future ones is click any one that this has been applied to and click back on the one which is glitched and it should be fixed. Hopefully this will get fixed if it gets enough attention so that you are able to just paste in the number and move on. But for now, this seems to be the best workaround. Anyway, after your footage is lined up, then pick the corresponding UI that you are going to animate and the scale that it is. Now, move the timeline cursor to the last frame of your UI and just type the number that is right here. Another thing to note is that you are able to use the start frame slider to decide when your UI animation starts, which depending on the case, you may want to do instead of starting it at 0. But But for this case, we are just going to start at the first frame. If you plan on editing the style, feel free to press O and make this your out point. And lastly, click here to disable the counter. Now your UI is fully animated and all of the in-between frames are figured out for you. For many of you, this will be perfect and you can just move on. But for those who want to customize it, you have the freedom to easily change the animation or add some effects to make it match your style. The first thing we have here is the animation itself. This changes the easing of your keyframes, so feel free to mess around with it and find the one that suits your moment. If earlier you set the in and out point to the beginning and the end of this clip, come over here and click on the loop icon or go in here and click loop playback. Now, once you hit play, your animation will loop until you find the perfect style. Just below this, we have the animation scale, and as you can assume, this changes the maximum size your UI will get. Then you have background blur, which blurs the background behind your UI. Below that, we have drop shadow, which adds a shadow to your UI. Finally, we have blocky background, which pixelates your background. And as well as the background blur, this animates in with your UI. And although it's subtle, for those who are wondering, there you go. These three effects can be customized. So if you want to change them, just click the drop down on this tab and you will find all that you can customize. So feel free to adjust all of these to your liking. After this, we have the background color grading tab, where you are able to change some simple color grading properties of the background. After that, you have the extract mode tab. This is where you can make your UI its own object with nothing else attached to it, so that you can truly do with it whatever you want. Here is a pretty basic example of me using it for a shot. For this, I don't want the background or the animation, so I'm going to check these two boxes. Now, I'm just going to mask my smithing table and add a couple of position keyframes so that I have this animated behind and above my smithing table. Another thing included in this tab is full screen mode. This only works with certain UIs, so if nothing happens when you click it, your current UI isn't supported. This also works with different UI colors. So in this example, I went over to darkomizer.com and changed my UI colors. Now, if I check the box, I can change the color by using this to select the main UI color, and now the UI is full screen. If I want, this also works with animated UIs, so I'm going to leave the animation on and add a simple transition in and out to show focus to this UI. After that tab, we have a tab for if your UI selection is off for some reason. For this example, I moved the position of the footage to make the UI selection incorrect by a few pixels. As you can see, it isn't lined up perfectly, so I'm going to click on this box here and move the selection until it is in the correct spot. If you find a UI with an incorrect selection offset, feel free to report it as a bug so that I may fix it for everyone, but as a temporary fix, you can use this whenever you need. After that, we have the Hotbar Offhand tab, which is for anyone who specifically is animating their hotbar and wants to have an offhand in their selection. If you simply have your offhand in it the whole time, then feel free to just click here and move on. But if you use the opposite hand, this will apply that to your selection. If your offhand pops in and out, then you can adjust these accordingly. The last category we have here is the settings for tabbed UIs. The two types of UIs with tabs are any with the recipe book or the creative inventory. If you switch tabs in either of these UIs, the UI changes and you can therefore change the selection accordingly. For example, I have this crafting inventory with the recipe book on, and I start at the first tab and I switch to the fourth tab, and finally I go to the second tab. Go ahead and click on this checkbox so that it's easier to animate. I also have to pick how many different tabs get selected during this. So in my case, it's 3. Since this is the recipe book UI and I haven't unlocked all of the recipes, I need to change the number of tabs to 4. And to make it easier to understand what is going on, the numbers change color according to the tab state. Green means it's selected, brown means it's active, and gray means it's inactive. To animate this, open the first drop-down menu. Then I select the active tab for the first one. And since it's on this tab immediately, there is no need to change the start frame. Then I open the second tab menu and select the tab that gets selected and move the start tab on the frame number. And finally, I do the same thing for the next one. And then I can uncheck this and it has been adjusted. That's it. If you already have UI Expander, you're ready to start animating your UIs. As an added note, you can always render and replace your UIs whenever you want, but it tends to work best if you carve a little time out for it and render them all in bulk at once. If you don't have UI Expander yet and you want to check it out, feel free to head to the description and click on the link. It's a great way to make your videos feel dynamic and alive. So I hope y'all have a great day. I'll see you later.